Hello again, friends and loyal Wolfpack members. Chaos Wolf here, and welcome back to the channel. Now, Frontier have gone and released newsletter 121, and this is the second in the 3 newsletters that are on the lead up to beta. So we've been given an absolutely amazing amount of information in this newsletter once again, and the first bit of this is looking at potentially what the new bulletin boards are going to look like. Now, it does stress in the newsletter that these images are a work in progress. I mean, let's have a look at them now. And it does say that there is going to be some placeholder images and text in there for the moment. But from what I can see at the moment, it looks like a massive improvement on the current system. And it does seem that Frontier is actually listening to the community and, well, basically when we're saying what kind of things we would like to see in the game. Because we're going to have pictures of the NPCs that are giving us the missions. We can see who they are, what their names are, what their ranks are in their respective factions, and so on. And it's adding a lot more depth to the game, which is something a lot of people have been really asking for and crying out for, really. So it's something that is a massive welcome change. Now, after 1.6 and 2.1, as it is currently, your reputation is really going to matter with the individual factions that you are getting missions from. But it seems that this is being expanded upon a little more as well, with the higher your reputation with a specific minor faction or even a superpower is going to be directly relating to how quickly you unlock new NPCs or higher tiers of NPCs for specific factions, and then what missions you're going to be able to get from said factions. At least this is how I think it's going to be working. I may have completely misunderstood what's going on. That is completely a possibility, but it does seem to make sense to me. And I'm really looking forward to having a look at these the bulletin boards in person when 2.1 goes live, so I can go and see how it finally gets implemented, because right now, as they've said, this is just placeholder information. Now, regardless of whether or not these images are pretty much placeholder or not, the effects that completing or failing missions has on the universe is going to be increased. Completing or failing missions are going to be having more of a basically an emphasized positive or negative effect on specific systems, trade, what's available at stations, and so on. So it seems to me that Frontier is wanting to create a more complicated, not exactly a complicated, but a more in-depth economy in the game. So completing certain missions may make certain commodities cheaper in the commodities market. It may make it so that you can buy more, there are more things to buy in the outfitting department. There's just so much more potential for this and such a great scope for change in the game. And I'm really looking forward to seeing which direction Frontier ends up taking this. Now, as has been previously hinted at, there are going to be some changes to explosive weapons, mainly the guided missiles and torpedoes. At least that's what it seems like from this particular newsletter. It says that guided missiles are going to be getting somewhat of a buff, pretty much. They are going to be having better guidance systems which make them more efficient over longer ranges, and they're going to have basically a damage buff, saying that they're going to have a better payload delivery system. So basically they're going to do more damage, be better over long range, and they're going to have a higher splash radius. So they're going to be damaging multiple external modules on ships. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that works, because I really want to see if it is possible to knock out the thrusters of a ship with seeker missiles. That would be very interesting to see. But with all these changes comes a few little drawbacks as well. Those of you who are grinding the QBO run, I mean, yes, I have been guilty of doing this myself, especially with Commander Ducky, actually only with Commander Ducky. basically things are going to be changing. So apparently the bases are going to be getting not just NPCs flying around, they are also going to be having point defenses mounted around the settlement. So just trying to fire missiles down at the settlements is no longer going to be a viable tactic. But moving on from that one, there are going to be some changes to torpedoes. Basically, torpedoes are going to be made so that they are more effective against larger ships and more effective against point defenses. So it's going to make them a very good, viable alternative. Now, before at one point, the torpedoes were extremely deadly, even to larger ships, but then they did get nerfed at one point, or at least I think they did. I never really used them all that much to remember this specifically. But it does seem that they are going to be able to be used as a very big coup de grace to your target. Perhaps just taking shields down and then firing off a couple of torpedoes and boom, the whole ship is gone. Maybe even into Anaconda-sized ships, I don't know. But we'll have to go and see, won't we? Now, onto some news that nobody seemed to be expecting, and that is ice mining. We are getting a reason beyond just pretty vistas to go into ice rings now. Like I said, we're going to be able to mine ice rings. We're going to be able to get things like, I'm going to have to read this one off my phone because I cannot remember this off the top of my head, methanol monohydrate crystals and low temperature diamonds. So apparently we're going to be able to find materials for engineers in the ice rings, as well as other places like normal rings and so on. So we're getting a lot more, not exactly commodities, but items being introduced into the game. So I imagine we're going to be getting a lot of commodities added in there, so that's going to be interesting. But yes, we're going to be able to mine ice rings even, and we're getting the ability to acquire the materials needed to give to engineers in order to synthesize the upgrades which are going to be added onto our weapons. Now, as with the bulletin boards and how they're being changed, Frontier do seem to have listened to the community even more when it comes to what's coming up next as well. Especially not just the community as a whole, but especially to Vindicator Jones, who made a video on this very specific topic. What is the topic, you ask? It is traffic controllers. Basically, as we are going to be coming into stations post 1.6 2.1, we are going to be able to hear traffic controllers guiding us in, telling us things like keep to the speed limits, go to your pads, and this, that, and the other. Now, obviously, I'm not saying the right things, but there is a video up, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw it up for you guys to have a look at, and I'm going to shut up.
Welcome. You have entered Imperial Sovereign Territory. Please approach at a safe speed and comply with station regulations. Permission granted. Land on designated pad number 22. Please stay on current course. Your speed is good. Landing complete. Initiating lockdown procedures. We trust this facility will serve you well, Commander.
Okay, now that was pretty cool, and I really do like this. The only thing I'm hoping for is that we're going to have a good variety of voice actors for this, because I don't want to get annoyed listening to the same voice actor again and again and again. Now, I don't know if it was just me, but that sounded ever so slightly like Ed, although that I might just be completely mistaken there, but oh well. What do you guys think of the idea of traffic controllers? Do you think it adds even more depth to the universe, or is it just some extra noise that you really don't want to have to listen to? Let me know, as always, down in the comments. And yes, we've now got even more weapon modifications to have a look at. We have been shown now the incendiary rounds. And now what these are rounds that can be loaded into kinetic weapons that will convert a proportion of the weapon's kinetic damage into thermal damage. What this means is that it's now more feasible to run a pure kinetic weapon build. Like, imagine having a Corvette with nothing but multi-cannons on there and having them all loaded up with incendiary rounds. Now what this will do is make it so that you can actually punch through shields with almost as much ease as you can through holes. So this is going to basically open up the way you're going to be building up your ships, because up until now it's always been the idea to have some thermal weapons, some kinetic weapons, or even just pure thermal weapons to be able to take the shields down, because up until this point kinetic weapons do absolutely hardly anything to shields, which is fair enough. But this new modification is going to make it so that there's so many more possibilities of ways of actually outfitting your ship. I'm really looking forward to seeing how this works. I mean, in the picture you can see here, it's actually showing you a multi-cannon. I'm really looking forward to seeing whether or not it's actually going to allow us to fit this modification to cannons and everything else, so on. Even frag cannons. I'd be really interested to see whether that works. If it goes to frag cannons, that's going to be lethal. Now the next one here is the feedback cascade. This one seems to be attached to a railgun. Now whether this is going to be exclusive to railguns or not is another issue, but the effect that this offers to the weapon is extremely interesting, and it's going to have a massive role in PvP, I think. Because what it does is apparently they've got some kind of energy signature thing which they charge up the slug from the railgun, that if it hits a ship that is using a shield cell bank, it will disrupt the signal from the shields or something. The shields will instantly go down if they are using a shield cell bank. So if it's currently trying to charge up and you hit them with this, it'll just instantly drop the shields down. Now that is going to infuriate so many players if that happens to you. Just imagine you're going out doing your PvP, you're hitting your 50 million shield cells that you stacked up, and then all of a sudden you get hit by this, your shields are gone, and you're losing hull left, right and centre. Perhaps somebody else has the force shells and they're knocking you around so you can't jump out to a different system. That is going to be massive troll bait. And I'm really curious to see how all these modifications change the way the game plays, not just for PvP but for PvE as well. Now there's going to be so much that's going to be happening in this, and apparently it's not just weapons that we're going to be able to modify. Apparently we're going to be able to modify every single module in the game. So whether that includes frameshift drives, shields, thrusters, that's going to be extremely interesting to find out. Or even the scanners. That'll be it'll offer so much more customization for any type of ship. You'll be able to change your ship from long-range scout to hull tank. I imagine you'll be able to even just get military grade composites and just even make them even more military grady, perhaps. I don't know. It's just so many things, so many possibilities that are going to be coming in 1.6 and 2.1. I'm dying to see what's happening now, because Frontier did say this is going to be the biggest and most extensive patch in the game, and holy crap were they not lying. Now if all this was not enough to sink our teeth into, Frontier have even given us some pictures of the engineers' bases. I mean, we went from like a few weeks ago having absolutely no news whatsoever to being an absolute avalanche of information for the last 2 weeks. I'm not complaining, it's just so much to talk about. And I've barely even scratched the surface of all this. I do plan to make a few more videos on the subject. But as you can see, we've got what looks like a Diamondback flying into a engineer's base. There's a few more images, but what I'm going to go and do is put them up just to let you have a look at. So, but that's pretty much it for the episode. I do hope you've enjoyed it and come away knowing a bit more about what's coming up in the next patch. Anyway guys, I've been Commander Chaos Wolf, you guys have been epic, I will see you soon. And until then, Commanders, keep flying and stay shiny.